Hello everybody, Pedro's Movie Cavern, in the new cavern again. Obviously this is where the cavern's going to be from now on. But yeah, this is a interesting video that I've had an idea for a while. And it stems from the last video response that I did to the Halloween movie marathon that Sammy G put out. It's very difficult to find people who have the same sort of tastes in films as you in the space to basically to tag. And it got me thinking that maybe, like, because not everyone's going to be a horror movie fan. There's going to be people who aren't really fussed on horror, but there's also going to be people who prefer different genres. So the idea I had was, instead of a movie marathon, is you set up a film festival. Now you choose 6 movies from that to program over a 2-night period. I got really chubby fingers, by the way. I didn't realise. So a 2-night period, 3 movies per night. You have an opening night where you have an opening film, you have a middle film, and you have a closing film of each night. You can choose any 6 films that you want. Doesn't matter what the genre. If you want to do 6 horror movies, you can do 6 horror movies. If you want to do 6 science fiction films, you can do 6 science fiction films. You could do 6 westerns, 6 war movies. It doesn't matter what genre you choose. You could do a film from multiple different genres. So you could do 6 movies. So you could open the night with a horror movie, an action movie, a comedy, blah, blah, blah. Or you could choose a decade like I've done. So I have chosen to do a 1980s sci-fi fantasy film festival to program these movies. I looked through what was out and what was in the boxes, and I found 6 movies that I would program for a 2-day film festival. So you've got an opening film for the opening night and a closing film for the closing night. Well, for the opening night. You've got an opening film for the second night, and you have the closing film for the second night, and there's a film in between. The idea of this is to make this a more broader, more accessible sort of video. Because there are people that I would generally like to see what they would choose. Like, you could choose exactly the same genre as me. You could choose the same decade. You might even choose 1 or 2 of the same films. But it gives you a broader canvas in which to do this this response, or this challenge. Yeah. So I'd be intrigued to see the responses from the other the people that I choose, and then people who will continue the chain on. So yeah, to kick things off, welcome to my film festival. I call it Baimon Sci-Fi Con. No, that's The Simpsons. I would call it Real Cinema, but as in REEL. No, I wouldn't. I'd call it Genre Core Film Festival, because everything's got to have a core on the end these days. So welcome to Genre Core Night 1. This is my sci-fi, my 80s sci-fi fantasy film festival. The first film of the night to kick everything off and to get everyone in the seats and eating the popcorn is the incredibly awesome and massively underrated 1983 classic, motherfucking Kroll. Kroll is amazing. I love Kroll. Such a good movie. Peter Yates directed this, which I found out the other day. Peter Yates also directed Summer Holiday with Cliff Richard. Massively underrated science fiction fantasy movie. It's got aliens in it. It's got giant spiders. It's got the fucking glaive, which is badass. Such a good film. Ken Marshall, Lysa Anthony, Freddie Jones and Francesca Annis, but there are also other people in it you would recognise, like I do believe Liam Neeson's in this. I think Liam Neeson's in this. I think he is. Todd Carty from EastEnders, or if you never watched EastEnders, you probably would know him as Tucker from Grange Hill. Hugely underrated movie. The production design on this and the visual effects for 1983 are really, really good. I mean, proper model work and stuff like that. It's 121 minutes, so it's a just over 2 hour movie. And I think it would be the perfect film to open up a 1980s sci-fi fantasy film festival. It doesn't necessarily have to be sci-fi fantasy. It can just be a sci-fi movie. It can be a sci-fi horror movie. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, kicking it off with Kroll, I think, is a really good choice. This is the premium collection number 83 release from HMV. It comes in this really nice slipcase with a bit of a shiny cover, and then you have the Amaray case. And I do believe this has got DVD. Yeah, it has DVD and Blu-ray as well. But you know what? I never noticed this before. I have never noticed this. It has a Kroll mini poster. When I get some artwork for this room, I'm gonna get a Kroll poster because Kroll's fucking awesome. It also has some art cards as well. So yeah, so kicking off night one, our opening movie is the 1983 awesomeness that is Kroll. So then we've had the big opening sci-fi fantasy movie, so we're gonna cool it down and get a little bit more chill and a bit more action horror sci-fi oriented with The Wraith, starring Charlie Sheen. This film's cool. I really enjoy this movie. The car sequences are really well staged. I can't remember who directed it because there is a gigantic Mike Marvin, written and directed by Mike Marvin, starring Charlie Sheen, Nick Cassavetes, Sherilyn Fenn, and Randy Quaid apparently, but also has Clint Howard in it, and there's someone else in it as well. I can't remember who. But this is the collector's series from Vestron Video, released by Lionsgate. Comes in a handy dandy slipcase with the Amaray Blu-ray. Really cool, like heavy metal soundtrack as well, which is really makes the movie. So yeah, that's our little sci-fi action film numero 3. No, numero dos. Die, if you're Welsh. Yeah, a bit of an action horror sci-fi. It's about I guess, an angel demon thing drives a car that's played by... The car's not played by Charlie Sheen. The demon, or the Wraith, should I say. That's it. It's played by Charlie Sheen, who drives a Lambo, I think. Oh, no. A Dodge Turbo Interceptor. It's been a while, but this is a pretty cool movie. So yeah, film number 2 on night 1 is The Wraith. I know, so we've had the sci-fi, fantasy, action, horror movies, and now to close off night number 1 of Genre Core, the film festival, is Spaceballs. Mel Brooks is incredibly awesome, incredibly funny, just on point Star Wars parody, Spaceballs. It's so good. Mel Brooks, John Candy, Rick Moranis, which I think is a bit unfair because Bill Pullman is actually the main star in this film. He is the main star in this, but his name's not on the on the poster cover. But it says also starring Bill Pullman, Daphne Zuniga, Dick Van Patten, George Weiner, and Joan Rivers as the voice of Dot Matrix. It's so funny. It's so funny. It's so funny. We still like quote this on a daily at here. Well, there's a lot of things we quote daily here that have influenced us, both me and my brother. So it would be like Spaceballs and Robin Hood, Men in Tights. We quote Spaced a lot. But Mel Brooks, there's something about Mel Brooks movies that just hits differently than like something like Airplane when it comes to like spoofs. Even Dracula Dead and loving it, but I think that like Spaceballs, as a kid who grew up in the 80s, Spaceballs, well, 80s and 90s, Spaceballs was like a staple on BBC TV or like ITV, like Christmas and Easter. But you rarely ever see it on TV now these days. I think it's because it's probably not woke enough. But Spaceballs as the closing movie of night one, I think, is a genius idea. So we've got night one being Krull, the Wraith, and Spaceballs. So everyone's gone home. They've had a sleep. They've woken up. They've had their coffee, and now it's time for night two of Genre Core, the Science Fiction Fantasy Film Festival. And much like we did with night one, we're going to open night two with another 1980s classic sci-fi movie, Disney's Tron. Tron is like was ahead of its time in 1982 when this came out. This film was I found it quite hard to watch as a child because I didn't really understand it, and I think it's very difficult for little kids to understand Tron because it's a confusing narrative movie. Who wrote it? It was written by Steve Lisberger and Bonnie McBird. And I can see where they were coming from. Like the idea of getting sucked into a video game is like every kid's dream. I mean, they made a cartoon, didn't they, called Captain N, the Games Master, where a kid gets sucked through a TV screen into a Nintendo world. But this is a lot more confusing and a lot more technologically complicated, if you know what I mean. As a very small child, now it's quite easy to understand. I mean, I would rather watch this and enjoy it slightly more than watching Tron Legacy. Now, there's nothing to take against Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy is a great film, fantastic soundtrack, but again, with something like Tron, it can be quite confusing for younger audiences. But when you rewatch Tron now as an adult, you see that it's so far ahead of its time for when it was made that 95 minutes isn't like the longest time in the world, and it always felt like longer when I watched Tron before. But for 95 minutes, that's not that long, considering that Krull is 121 minutes. How long was the Wraith? I can't find it now. 92 minutes. And Spaceballs is 96 minutes. So we're going to open night two with Steve Lisberger's classic Tron. So much like the previous night, we're going to have a bit more of a sci-fi action theme for the second film. So I decided to go with another great 80s, probably underrated 80s sci-fi action movie. And probably one of the most underrated in this person's filmography. It's The Running Man, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is based on a novel by Richard Bachman, which was actually Stephen King. Stephen King wrote The Running Man. This was directed by Paul Michael Glaser, who I believe... Isn't he the guy from Starsky and Hutch, the TV show? I can't remember. But, yeah, so I remember watching this as a kid. Like, probably shouldn't have watched it as a child because it's surprisingly violent. Well, it is violent. It's a R rating in America, and I think it was an 18 over here for a long, long time. I know it's a 15 now because you can easily get away with having something like this as a 15. I was surprised when the Terminator became a 15, like the first Terminator. Like, I know there's nothing horrendously overly violent in that movie, but there was always an 18 certificate when I was a kid. So yeah, The Running Man, awesome movie. Schwarzenegger plays a man called Ben Richards, who was a police officer, but he was stitched up for a massacre that happened with a helicopter and a bunch of I think they were like dwellers or like tent people living in tents and stuff. He was then classed as the butcher of Bakersfield. And he goes on this TV show called The Running Man, where it's sort of like Most Dangerous Game stroke. Sort of, how to explain it? It's like different levels, and you have to make it through each level without being killed. It's very dystopian, and like you would... Yeah, it's very cool though. It's very cool, but it's interesting because you've got different people in this as well. So, Jesse Ventura is in this as well. Maria Conchita Alonso, Yaphet Kotto is also in this. But there's some brilliant lines in it as well. Especially he's got Sub-Zero and what was it? I hope you left enough room for my fist, because I'm going to ram it down your throat and break your goddamn spine. Yeah, just such a great movie, so fun. And like I said, I think it's one of Arnold's most underrated 80s movies. I think people talk a lot about, obviously, the Terminator and Conan, and I love them. But also, like Raw Deal and Commando. Commando is always like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando. Jenny, I hope you never leave enough room for my fist. So that's how we will end the second movie. It was going to be The Running Man. And finally, to cap off the night 2 of my genre core sci-fi fantasy 80s movie film festival, I'm going to go with The Last Starfighter, because The Last Starfighter is fucking incredible. This film is so good. I have talked about my love of this movie many, many times. This is the 4K from Arrow. It is a beautiful, beautiful movie. There is nothing inherently offensive in this movie. It's got some fantastic practical effects, especially when Alex is replaced by the Beta unit. The Gunstar is such a badass ship. So good. I'm trying to find a cheap Chinese Lego version of the Last Starfighter Gunstar ship, because I want to build it and I want to display it because I love that ship. But for those not in the know, this film is directed by Nick Castle. Nick Castle also directed The Boy Who Could Fly and was the original Michael Myers from Halloween. And it stars Lance Guest as Alex Rogan. Alex Rogan is a high school senior or college age guy who lives in a trailer park called the Starbright Trailer Park, I guess. Trailer Court. He's in a relationship with Maggie, who is played by Catherine Mary Stewart from lots of great 80s movies, but most specifically Night of the Comet with Kelly Maroney as well, and Robert Preston as Centaur. This film is about a arcade game. So Alex plays this arcade game called The Last Starfighter, or Starfighter, I think it's called. And it's sort of like a I'm not really up on the retro games, like the old retro games, what it would be sort of be classed as. But the game itself is actually a tool for recruiting pilots to fight a war against the Codon Armada, who are like trying to destroy different planets and stuff. So it's sort of like a I can't even really describe it. However, basically, the film is about a guy who plays a video game and gets recruited into a Star League just to be a badass space fighter. It's so cool. If you've never seen it, check it out. You will love it. I love it. It's just so good. And it's got a really, really amazing score by Craig Safin as well, which is, if I could get the full physical, maybe even a vinyl of the Last Starfighter soundtrack, I would be a happy bunny. So I am closing out my genre core sci-fi fantasy 80s movie film festival with The Last Starfighter. So that is it. My film festival is over. I might have to do this every October. This will be my 1 year thing. Maybe not. Speaking of 1 year, I've been doing videos for a year consistently now. So I've recorded, edited, uploaded a video. I want to say consistently. I haven't. There are times where I don't make a video, but obviously not everyone can be on it. But compared to the previous years where I've uploaded videos, since October 2023 till October now, 2024, I have a consistent upload, if you know what I mean, of content that is viewed by people. Maybe not as many people as I would like, but the people who do view the content, I fucking love you guys. So it's been 1 year. So this is my sort of 1 year anniversary video, as well as being my film festival video as well. So thank you everyone for watching. That's amazing. Now I have to tag people. So I am going to tag to do this because I know he'd probably enjoy doing this. I'm going to tag Lee. So Lee is the Nerdy Geezer, because he can do this on his new channel, which is Nerdy Movies, or Nerdy Geezer Movies on his second. This is his second channel. So I'm going to get Lee to do this if he wants to do it, and Everything Home Theatre. I'll have to double check that. I think it's called Everything Home Theatre. So I'm linking those two. Tagging those two to do this film festival sort of video response thing. If you can just put a VR at me, that would be fantastic. I'd love to see what you guys choose. So it's Nerdy Geezer Movies and Everything Home Theatre. I'm double checking, but you will be linked, my friend. So that's it. Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my little 6-movie film festival. I would love to do a 6-movie film festival for real and just actually program these movies on a massive screen, but never going to happen. So, as usual, I'm going to give you a salute. I'm going to throw up the peace sign. I'm going to tell you I am out. Peace. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.